half right, hook.
Welcome, honored guests, staff, and students. This weekend, all across this country, thousands of flags will be placed on the gravestones of veterans, recognizing their service and the ultimate sacrifice they made for our freedom. As we gather here today to commemorate Memorial Day, it's natural for our minds to drift towards cherished memories and reflections of the brave individuals who fought in past wars. Having been born in the mid-1970s, for a time when I was your age, in middle school, war seemed like a distant concept confined to the pages of history books, TV shows, or connected to our fathers who fought and served in Vietnam, or our grandfathers in Korea in World War II. But for the generations that followed, something has changed. The landscape of conflicts has transformed, and undeclared, never-ending wars have somehow become the norm. The idea of war has shifted from something that we read about to almost a continuous presence in our lives. At times, we often hear negative things about the younger generations. Yet as someone who has dedicated the past 25 years of their life to education, I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the service and sacrifice that remains ever present among our people. Despite the evolving nature of conflicts, current generations continue to demonstrate profound concern for the welfare of our country and an unwavering commitment to make a difference. Today, we acknowledge that every generation faces its own unique challenges and circumstances. While the world may have changed, the American spirit of service and sacrifice has not waned. The young men and women of today understand the gravity of the sacrifices made by their predecessors and the great generations before them, as well as the ongoing commitment required to maintain our freedom and protect our values. Memorial Day serves as a poignant reminder of the brave souls who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. It is time for us to reflect on their unwavering bravery and selflessness and to honor their memory and express our gratitude for their sacrifice. I'm going to thank each one of you in advance for paying respectful attention to this presentation. Now, if you could please stand and remove your hats and remain standing until the conclusion of our national anthem. And we'll pause for a moment of silence. Let us bow our heads for a moment of silence to remember the brave men and women who died in all of our nation's conflicts. Thank you. Now join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Dr. Bianca. And of course, our grade 8 students, Autumn Waller, Fatima Saad, Olivia Gustafson, Kevin Wilkie, Alex Payne, and Aaliyah Croak. Thank you very much. I would now like to welcome Morgan Legendry and Lucas Delisle to the podium to lead us through the assembly. And again, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Morgan Legendry.
And I'm Lucas Delisle.
We are both 8th graders and have been active members of our student body for 3 years through programs like StuCal and sports. We have both been involved in our drama performances and unified sports program. We are proud to be a part of this year's Memorial Day Assembly, and we would like to also introduce our technicians, Ashton Daniels and Adriana Sunday.
This year, our program will introduce us to 2 anniversaries that should be recognized. First, the 250th anniversary of the shot heard around the world, the start of the American Revolution. Second, we will introduce a more difficult anniversary, which is the fall of Saigon, the end of the Vietnam War. We ask you to please listen with the utmost respect. Enjoy the presentation.
We would now like to recognize our veterans who are visiting with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, and more importantly, thank you for your service to our country. Norton Middle School would like to take the opportunity to show our support for military families here in Norton. So, if you have a family member who is serving or who has served, can you please stand and be recognized?
We are privileged to live here in the state of Massachusetts, a state of many firsts. The first public school in Boston was established on April 23rd, 1635. Basketball was invented by James Naismith in 1891 in Springfield, and volleyball in nearby Holyoke a few years later. So many medical firsts, from anesthesia to infant formula, and then the first cardiac surgery. Our most important first has to be the organization of the Minutemen during the time of the British rule. The Minutemen were a part of a local militia which was formed to respond quickly to threats. They played a significant role in the early stages of the American Revolutionary War.
Because of this group, the remaining colonies from New Hampshire all the way down to Georgia felt the need to organize more troops to support what was happening here in Massachusetts. The first American Army was formed in June of 1775 to serve as a more permanent unified force known as the Continental Army. This year, 2025, we celebrate the famous Battle of Lexington, which happened on April 19, 1775. Hopefully, you remember the phrase, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, in reference to how the British or regulars were going to come down into the city, which then sparked the famous ride of Paul Revere and 2 others, William Dawes and Samuel Prescott, to ride through the towns to warn the rest of the colony. Please now draw your attention to the following video to take us through this piece of history. At the conclusion of the video, Hannah McGarry will read the Concord Hymn, written by Ralph Waldo Emerson 100 years later, commemorating the battle.
April 1774. 11 years have passed since British victory in the 7 Years' War. And since that moment, ties between the 13 colonies and the motherland have been under increasing strain. The colony's list of grievances seems to grow year by year. And with each new attempt by the British Parliament to assert its authority, colonial resistance grows fiercer and bolder. destruction of 46 tons of East India Company tea in the so-called Boston Tea Party is the final straw. Lord North's government decides to make an example of Boston and the colony of Massachusetts. In the spring of 1774, the British send 4,000 troops to occupy the colony and pass a series of measures known as the Coercive Acts. The governor is replaced by a new military governor, General Gage. Boston's port is closed to commerce by Royal Navy blockade. Representative assemblies in Massachusetts are limited, and it becomes easier for British troops to requisition housing throughout the colonies. In America, the Coercive Acts are quickly labelled the Intolerable Acts, and the effect is the opposite of that intended. The colonies rally in support of Massachusetts and in defiance of the latest act of parliamentary tyranny. In America, the long history of colonial and frontier wars means most British colonies maintain their own militia. Now, these part-time citizen soldiers are training regularly under local officers, anticipating a confrontation with the British. It's a growing concern for General Thomas Gage, the British commander in North America, with 4,000 troops in Boston. The following month, General Gage receives orders to disarm the local militia and arrest its leaders. He targets a small town 20 miles from Boston called Concord, where he believes Patriot munitions and stores are stockpiled. 19th of April, 1775, Boston. Around midnight, 700 British infantry, drawn from elite grenadier and light infantry companies, cross Boston Harbor in boats and begin their march to Concord. The route has been carefully planned, and British scouts and spies patrol the countryside. But the Patriots have their own spy network in Boston. And before the British have even left the city, several Patriot horsemen, including Paul Revere, have ridden out to raise the alarm across eastern Massachusetts. In Lexington, Militia Captain John Parker is alerted to the approaching British column. He gathers 80 militiamen on the village green to observe their advance. Around dawn, at 5 a.m., the head of the British column arrives. Redcoat officers order the militiamen to lay down their arms. Shouts and jeers are traded. Then a shot rings out. From which side is not clear. The British regulars fire a flurry of shots. The militia run for cover. 8 lie dead or dying. Just one British soldier is wounded. This small skirmish, lasting just a few minutes, is the first clash of the American Revolutionary War.
Concord Hymn by Ralph Waldo Emerson, sung at the completion of the Battle Monument July 4th, 1837. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled. Here once the embattled farmers stood, and fired the shot heard round the world. The foe long since in silence slept, alike the conqueror's silence sleeps, and time the ruined bridge has swept, down the dark stream which seaward creeps. On this green bank, by this soft stream, we set today a votive stone, that memory may their deed redeem, when like our sires our sons are gone. Spirit that made those heroes dare to die and leave their children free, bid time and nature gently spare the shaft we raised to them in thee.
Thank you, Hannah. We will now celebrate all of our nation's 6 military branches by listening to the playing of the United States Armed Forces Medley performed by the United States Coast Guard Band. As each branch's song is played, a member of our 8th grade class will place the corresponding flag at the center stage.
Thank you. That was a special tribute. A tradition here at Norton Middle School is the reading of the poem In Flanders Field, written by Field Doctor Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae during World War I in Belgium, a country in Western Europe. The poem paints a vivid picture of the poppies that bloomed amid the graves of the fallen soldiers in Flanders Field, a region in Belgium heavily affected by the war. The poem speaks to the duty of the living to carry on the fight and honor the sacrifice of those who gave their lives. Fatima Sad will now read In Flanders Field.
In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies glow, between the crosses row on row that mark our place. And in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Team out. Our next anniversary is the recognition of the fall of Saigon, which marked the end of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was an armed conflict in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, fought between North Vietnam and South Vietnam and their allies. North Vietnam was supported by the Soviet Union and China, while South Vietnam was supported by the United States and other anti-communist nations. We are now going to see a short video of a small group of soldiers going out on a patrol back in the late 1960s. You will see the dense jungle the men had to walk through while always staying alert for the enemy. Following the video, you will hear Kevin Wilkie share a letter from a Vietnam soldier.
American soldiers hiking their way through the sweaty jungles of South Vietnam, searching for an elusive enemy. The temperature is almost 100 degrees, and the jungle stifles even the tiniest breeze. The going is slow. There could be a North Vietnamese regiment hiding a few yards away, and no one could see it. Nobody talks, so you start thinking. Specialist Corps Dwayne Hoore is thinking he's going to meet his fiancée in Honolulu in 2 weeks. And he will show her the silver star the general pinned on him yesterday. DeValle is the lone medic in the platoon. He's scared from the moment he gets out of the chopper to the moment it picks him up. Scared that someday he's going to get killed picking up a wounded buddy. Jorgensen just became a sergeant, but he doesn't like it. He'd rather be up walking point, where the action is. He's already got 3 Purple Hearts, so everybody calls him Hero. Then there's Lieutenant Hughley. Everybody calls him Blue. That's his radio call. Blue didn't want to come to Vietnam, and he'd much rather be a businessman than a soldier. But right now, he's in charge of the lives of 21 men. Somewhere in this jungle, there's several hundred North Vietnamese soldiers who could wipe out this little American unit to the last man in an unguarded moment.
All right, give me some cover. Back here. Get him back here if you can. Can you move him? Can you move him? Okay, try and bring him back here. Remember to stop the bleeding.
And DeValle, the medic, having survived another rescue mission, brings back his wounded man. Who is it? Question spreads down the line. Oh, Christ, it's Hero, the sergeant who likes to walk point. How bad is it? A couple of leg wounds.
We were walking down the trail. I was walking point, and we noticed the side trail. It was one of the side trails that came down. It had more use on it than when we first came down it. So I looked up and spotted it was an MVA, had a green uniform and an AK, and it was like a quick for the whole thing. I opened up in him, he opened up in me. Yeah, I'm afraid it works that way, but he's lying up there on the trail.
We have to take fire.
I got hit in both legs.
Pop smoke, 4-3. Pop smoke over here.
That's about it.
Ed?
Well, I've got 7 months in country now, 3 Purple Hearts. I don't need a 4th.
The enemy soldier who shot Jorgensen cannot be found. He may have survived or dragged himself off to die. Most of the time, you never really know. The problem now is to get Hero out of here. So Blue calls in the medevac helicopter and sets up a perimeter to protect him. Hero has stopped making brave jokes now. The shock has worn off and the pain has begun. The helicopter hovers over the jungle, and in the midst of the firefight, his buddies put Hero on the rescue chopper, and he's pulled up 100 feet to a hospital bed and a one-way ticket out of the Vietnam War. And then it's quiet again. Alpha Troop 19, less one man, gingerly making its way back through the heat and the smell of gunpowder, back to the pickup zone.
Dear family, we just finished a 12-mile sweep of Laos border, and we are now on Hill 305. The big generals haven't decided when they're going to end this operation, but they better hurry because we're all getting pretty tired. Kilo Company has really had it bad, as 6 men drowned yesterday, and they got pinned down today and lost 8 more and over 30 wounded. But my company is doing pretty good. I've enclosed some pictures taken on Hill 500 of me and my buddy Pelham I'm sending back the other pictures as they are starting to fade. They were great. On my next package, can you please send me some Devil Dogs, coffee, hot cocoa, hot sauce, and a can of butterscotch pudding? I hope this ain't too much. Getting back to the pictures. Notice how skinny I am? I'll gain some weight once I'm back home. Also, notice my tattoo? I've got two now. Well, I've gotta go as I gotta go right to Sharon and Bobby. Love y'all, Paul.
Thank you, Kevin. Letters written from Vietnam, particularly during the chaotic days surrounding the fall of Saigon in 1975, provide a deeply personal perspective on the events, capturing the emotions, anxieties, and experiences of those living through the crisis. These letters, often addressed to loved ones back home, offer insights onto the daily realities of life in a war-torn country and the impact of the war's end. Some of us may know of family and friends who fought in Vietnam and share very little. Reading letters may help us understand and remind us of the sacrifices they made for us to be able to assemble as we are today.
The fall of Saigon, which occurred on April 30th, 1975, marked the end of the Vietnam War when the North Vietnamese Army captured Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam. This event led to the collapse of the South Vietnamese government, the evacuation of the U.S. personnel and South Vietnamese civilians, and the reunification of the Vietnam under communist rule. We will now share with you a video put together by CBS News talking with the Marines that were there that day to give us a bit of an insight as how to the day unfolded.
The question was not will they attack at some point, but when will they do it?
Now 83, Stuart Harrington was one of only a handful of American military personnel still left in Vietnam.
The map in my office began to show more and more red arrows, all pointing south.
With Vietnam rapidly approaching what Secretary of State Henry Kissinger called the worst case, he cabled American Ambassador Graham Martin, "We must evacuate our people and do so as soon as possible." Americans and Vietnamese flooded Tan Son Nhut Airport outside Saigon, but enemy shelling killed 2 Marines standing guard there, Darwin Judge and Charles McMahon, the last Americans to die in Vietnam.
The North Vietnamese bombed and rocketed the runway at Tan Son Nhut, so the runway became unusable.
Retired Marine Jerry Berry was a helicopter pilot aboard the armada of American ships off the coast.
Helicopters were the last resort, and at 10:45 on the morning of 29 April 1975, Ambassador Graham Martin gave the order to commence Operation Frequent Wind, which became the largest helicopter evacuation in history.
That's Berry's helicopter landing in the embassy parking lot.
I actually landed at the embassy about 1 o'clock. He said, my orders are to pick up the ambassador. The Marine security guard runs into the embassy, comes back and says, well, the ambassador's not ready to go.
Instead, Berry and 70 other helicopter crews began lifting out Americans and Vietnamese. Berry's call sign was Lady Ace 09, and here's his voice from 50 years ago.
This is Lady Ace 09, Roger, we're outbound this time with our passengers.
As darkness fell, Jerome Thomas was ordered to lower the American flag.
This was the last time the American flag was going to fly over Vietnam.
19-year-old Marine takes down the flag for the last time.
Heartbreaking.
America's war in Vietnam was now in its final hours.
Now it's probably somewhere around 4 in the morning. I can see the tanks coming down the road.
You could see the tanks.
North Vietnamese tanks because their lights are on. They're driving down the highway. I land on the embassy roof at 4:56 in the morning on 30 April 1975, and I called the Marine security guard over, and I said, you go tell the ambassador this helicopter's not leaving the roof until he's on board. And then my best aviator voice, I said, the president sends.
Order from the president. Did you have authority to?
I have no authority to do that. But, I mean, there's got to be an end here. 2 minutes later, his whole entourage are up, they're ready to go.
Ambassador Graham Martin brought the American flag with him.
So now I'm flying out, Of course, I do the call sign, Tiger, 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 which means the ambassador's out. So everybody knows.
It was late afternoon in Washington when Henry Kissinger announced the news.
Our ambassador has left, and the evacuation can be said to be completed.
Except it wasn't. Here's Kissinger giving an off-the-record talk to the Army War College, seen here for the first time.
Come back from the press conference and I find out that they had left the Marines behind that were guarding the embassy.
The last American fighting men in Vietnam were barricaded on the roof as Saigon was about to fall.
It's been so many years now.
Their sergeant, Juan Valdez, is 87 now and living in a memory care unit. But some things you don't forget.
We thought for sure that we were going to be left there, kind of swallow hard, you know, because by that time the tanks were passing by from the Vietnamese.
It felt like the Alamo for a while.
Doug Potratz was on the roof with Valdez.
We didn't know if we were going to be the last people and be overrun. The question that was going through everybody's mind was, should we fight or should we surrender? And everybody there to a man was like, we're fighting, you know. Because Marines never surrendered. It was the lowest point, I think, in my life. We're thinking about all the people that have died. Literally thousands and thousands of Americans, and it was all gone.
We were there for 2.5, maybe 3 hours waiting, and then all of a sudden, at a distance, we saw 2 choppers coming back.
Sir, there are 33 to 35 more Americans from Top Band Embassy for you to take out.
2 helicopters went back for the Marines. The first one picked up 22, and the second, the final, 11.
11 tanks on board, including the commander. All the Americans are out. That is it.
This blurry picture captured the moment.
I was the last one to go aboard.
Why were you the last one?
Because I was in charge of them. And whether I stayed behind, so be it, you know, but you always take care of your men first.
The last man out.
That's my, yeah.
Thank you, Sergeant Dennett. Our guest speaker today is Sergeant First Class Christopher McMahon of the Massachusetts Army National Guard. Christopher is a former Norton Middle School student and a Norton High School graduate, class of 2010.
Thank you. I just want to take a quick second and just say that you guys have done such a fantastic job. This is the second time I've attended the assembly as a speaker, but I have sat where you have all sat many times and seen the assembly from your perspective, and you guys should be really proud. You put on a really, really great great thing today, and very nice. Good morning, and thank you all for inviting me here to be the guest speaker today on Memorial Day. I'm truly humbled to be back here today in my hometown and to be able to share some words with you. Like you said, like you, I was once sitting where you are in the same chairs, watching these same veterans march across the stage and give remarks during this very assembly. It's truly a great opportunity. And since we're in school, I figured I could drop a little history and go with the theme and teach a little bit, right? So since the early days of the Civil War, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, and neighbors, and friends have all gathered together to remember and to mourn our fellow brothers and sisters in arms who did not return home. Originally, this day was known as Decoration Day, and it was the tradition of the time to decorate graves with flowers, flags, and wreaths. Today, we know it as Memorial Day, and it is celebrated in cities and towns across our great nation. We remember our fallen service members today, and here in Massachusetts, I believe we have the unique honor of being able to trace those fallen all the way back to the roots in which our great country was founded, back to the Revolutionary War and into the battles of Lexington and Concord. Our state headquarters for the National Guard is located a few 100 meters from those original battlefields. And it's always great to be able to get out from a meeting or something and be able to go out and walk those trails and see some of those battlefields. And I think that is something really, truly cool and unique to be here in Massachusetts and be surrounded by all the history and kind of bring it back to the day, right? Memorial Day is often seen as the unofficial start of summer, or perhaps a long weekend and a day off at the beach. It may be difficult. You might wonder how to properly celebrate such a solemn day with all these events in mind. You might even hear some people scoff at the idea of all the cookouts and beach trips and the day off. But I personally couldn't think of a more appropriate way to celebrate the freedom that these great men and women have laid down their lives to protect and to give to us. They have given you and me that ability to be able to celebrate freely, to be free and to enjoy a peaceful weekend here on American soil. But as we go all about this weekend and celebrate, I only ask that you take a moment to remember and to thank them for that ultimate sacrifice. This weekend, we will remember the men and women who make America the greatest country in the world, who held up the torch of freedom and shined bright the beacon of democracy across all four corners of the globe. This weekend we remember the men and women who gave that ultimate sacrifice to keep the red, white, and blue light of democracy shining. As I look out to you today, I encourage you all to remember the why behind that sacrifice. We remember the past today soon, because we will be passing that torch on to you. The red, white, and blue banner that shines bright across the globe and welcomes you into her arms, people from all four corners who want to live that American dream. We can honor these service members not just this weekend, but all year round by promoting the ideals and values that they lay down their lives for, by being kind to our friends and neighbors, by helping each other when we are in need, and by knowing that everyone is entitled to life, liberty, and that pursuit of happiness that is the American dream. But by above all else, by being Americans. Thank you.
On November 19, 1853, the Gettysburg Address was delivered by President Abraham Lincoln. One line from that speech is strikingly curious. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here. And here we are, still reading this speech today with pride and honor. A Massachusetts Senator, Charles Sumner, remarked at Lincoln's funeral how Lincoln was mistaken with those words. The senator proclaimed, the world noted at once what he said, and we will never cease to remember it. Lincoln's address was a monumental act. Please direct your full attention to Jackson Bouchard as he reads the Gettysburg Address.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you, Jackson. In conclusion of today's ceremony, we ask you to take a moment in the next few days to really reflect on what you have seen in today's presentation. The bravery of the common citizen to start the American Revolution, the physical and emotional toll to our soldiers and their families have endured, and many still from the Vietnam War, as well as the wars that followed. When you see a man or a woman wearing a military hat, take a moment and say thank you for your service and shake their hands. Plant some flowers at a grave, even if you don't know them, or simply show your support by attending a wreath-laying ceremony or a parade in town.
To conclude the ceremony, Dr. Bianca will play taps. During the Civil War, the Union soldiers would play taps honoring their fallen soldiers. Then, in an echoing effect, the Confederates would echo the call from across the river. Dr. Bianca will now honor that solemn tradition for us today. Please stand. After taps is played, please hold your applause until our veterans have assembled and begin to exit the gym.
right? Peace.